People have always wanted to know how the church actually started, or how religion started, and how it got into so many different uh, denominations, for lack of a better word, because that doesn't really cover it. First of all, let's talk about the nature of God and the nature of man. That was the first interpretation when they interpreted out of the Bible the words. And of course, you know, the Bible originally was never written. The Word of God, quote, was always handed down from man to man. And how else to tell you about that? But the Constantine, the great emperor, about 350, 365 AD, decided that he needed to get better control of his empire. And of course they had the pagans and they had the Christians and the Gnostics and the different people that were all putting together, and religion was becoming bigger than government, which seems to be the way some people want it now. But he knew that he had to form a tight bond among all these, and so he decided to start a religion, and he felt inspired to do this. He was kind of a bloodthirsty guy, that old Constantine, and he put together a Bible at that time and decided that was the way to start and hold everybody together. He took some of the pagan holidays and he made them Christian religious holidays, and he brought together a bunch of what he called learned men. And this was the Council of Nicaea. And as I've told you before, these guys at that time had an education that about equaled the 6th grade education of our kids today. They were the smart boys of the time. Now, he also decided to cull out all the books. He took all the sacred writings everywhere, and they finally came up with the 4 Gospels and a lot of Paul's writings to decide what would be allowed in the Christian Bible. They brought in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and one of the reasons they did that was those guys sounded like they could be disciples of Jesus. However, they say that after thorough investigation by historians and those that know these things, only one, John, had a potential of being an actual disciple. Well, if John did write his book 50 years after the resurrection, think about this. That would mean that he had to be in his late 70s or early 70s, one or the other, because he was a young man when he was chosen, if he was chosen to travel with Jesus. And during that ministry, why, let's say he was only 18 when he was chosen, that would put him in about 70, 50 years later, when he decided to write from memory all of the sayings of Jesus. Not hard to do, I guess, if you have a good memory. And most people in their old age have a better long-term memory than they do short-term, meaning that we remember better things that happened a long time ago than we do the things that happen today. I can testify to that personally. But the picking of the books had to eliminate a lot of other gospels, a lot of other gospels, and that word gospel simply means the truth, telling the truth. Now, the 3 books before John talked about the history of Jesus, the personality of Jesus, and so forth. Each of the books are dedicated to a different area or a different explanation of the life of the man they called Jesus. John was more interested in the miracles and the workings and the sayings of Jesus. And then that formed what they called the Catholic Church. Now, there was a lot of problem with that. Later on down the way, Martin Luther, as you know, started the Christian Church. He didn't like the punishments that he got from the other Catholics, the leaders, the rulers at that time, for asking questions, for wanting to know more. And therein is where the truth of spirituality comes. We should ask questions. Now, God, if God is God, why would he need our help in punishing people or in rewarding people or in worshiping God or all this? God is God. God doesn't need our help in any way, shape, or form. But God, in his omnipotent wisdom, omniscience, God proclaimed and made everything work according to its nature, and that's what it says in the book. Now, on that tree of good and evil, knowledge, why, after that was done, one of the statements in Genesis is, now man and woman have become as one of us. Us, meaning more than one God? Well, you know, they, as I said, they weren't real intelligent, and they did cut out a lot of words, and they interpreted a lot of words. And is God more than one? No. But is God plural? Yes. God is the creator and an intelligence. Now, if you take all the names of God in the Bible, they all represent a different personality of God. Isn't that interesting? But let me say this about the Bible before I quit. It talks about the history, wars and trials and tribulations and things that have happened in the past. And that's where they belong, in the past. And it's nice to read about them, and you can bet they're all slanted, depending on who was writing it, as to make them the most favorable and the best. And that's okay too, because it's the way man is. But what it really means, my friend, is that we live in the now. And we're writing history now, what we do now. And Jesus said it, and said it so very well. Buddha said it in a different way. Know thyself. Get into find out who and what you are. What's your essential nature? What are you really like? And we'll find out we're really spiritual. And Jesus said it. Give love. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And love yourself. And that's the truth. Well, always thank you for allowing me to share a little of the little that I know. And God bless you until next week.